victims to victors, where we tell our stories, how we overcame the storms, trials, and tribulations, and how we overcame, so you know that you are not alone and you too can become a victor. Today's guest comes from the other side of the world to this next, this beautiful place in North America here, and we're gonna get into a story that we've heard a lot about, in the sense of, oh, in the past, in the history books, like, oh, this stuff happened, but like not really experienced it. Like for myself, you heard of the Soviet Union, you heard of the wall, it was the dividing Germany and West and East Germany. We heard about this stuff, but this gentleman actually lived, like actually lived in the Soviet Union, and it's just a wild story, just a wild story. So guys, you got to wait to the end, because there's amazing stuff happening today. Sir Russ, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Oh,
Thank you for having me here.
most definitely, brother. So, man, I said you from the Soviet Union, but that's a big old place. They took over a big piece of land, man.
It used to be the biggest country in the world.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. So, which one specifically of what we know today? Where were you from?
Yeah. So I came from the Soviet Union and from the place that right now is known as Ukraine.
Mm,
So back in the days when I was born, it was 1974. It was one big country. It was 15 states or 15 republics joined together. So if you think about United States, it has 50 states, and each one of them will fall apart. It became its own country. That's what happened to Soviet Union in
wow.
1990s. And when I left the country, when I was born, I lived there for 13 years. It was still one big country. So I came from Ukraine, part of it, which is
Wow.
more an east. It's an east. It's part of the western part of Soviet, well, ex-Soviet Union, somewhere by Poland. It's closer to um, Poland. It's closer to Serbia. It's
Mm.
closer to like Italy. It's closer to
Oh, sure.
like
Okay.
this,
To that side.
all these
Yeah.
civilized countries. Uh, right.
For
So I
sure.
came
For
from that
sure.
part, or west part of the Soviet Union.
So this is my buddy. He's from the Czech. He's from the Czech Republic, right?
Czech Republic. Yeah, it's close to
And
Czech
the
Republic.
food,
Mhm.
buddy, the food. His
Yeah.
mom cooks some food, and I'm just
Oh my
like,
god.
oh my gosh, what are you doing? Like, can you cook for me? So my
Yeah.
question to you, brother, is like, from home, what is your food? Like, what is the thing you're like, I'm gonna eat this, or
Oh
you
my
just feel right
goodness.
now, like I want a cheeseburger. Like,
Well, if I ate my mom's kitchen, I'd probably be about 300 pounds more than I'm right. So the Russian food now is very different than the Russian food back then, because the only
hmm
thing that we ate is uh, bread, butter, uh, eggs, milk, and and if you get meat like a chicken, you kind of boil a soup out of that. So there was like very limited food. Now,
wow.
now as the country fall apart and everything became sort of civilized,
Mm.
and I'm talking about the average people. Like there was like super poor and the government, the super rich. So they had everything: the caviars, the strugen,
Wow.
but
So they
the
got
simple
the good
people, like
stuff. They got the
yeah, simple,
steak, and
like
they got
90% of the country, had to wait in lines to get food, right? So we used to wait in lines for hours to get milk. Like I used to get out of school around 2 or 3 o'clock. I used to go in the supermarket. I used to get in line, stand there for 3 hours, no matter the weather, until my dad would just come out of his work, and about 5:30 he would join me in line. I would be like really close to
yeah.
get bread and milk. You have to get bread and milk.
Wow.
So this is what we had to do. Now it's very different. I mean, it's very rich food. Now the Russian food is considered to be very beautiful food. And here in America, I'm in the States. I know you in Canada.
Yeah.
When you go to Russian restaurants, it's an infusion of European and with
Mm.
infusion of European foods. So there'll be a little bit of Italian, a lot of French,
Really?
and it's infusion of very rich, very flavorful, but very buttery rich food.
Yeah. Like your
The
kids would always be
salads would
white.
be
White
very
food.
rich. The breads would be very rich. Everything would be like very rich, but very a lot of flavor. But the
Mm-hmm.
flavor would be not a spice flavor like we find it in the Spanish cultures or Asian cultures. It
Mm-hmm.
would be different. It would be like more like buttery flavor type of thing,
Okay.
like a French culinary flavors that you would
Wow.
find in Russian food.
Wow. So when they came when they came over here, they took more French cuisines and they're just like, yeah, we're just gonna make this part of ours because we
Yeah.
had bread, you know.
Well, well, the history of the Russian culture is going back to Peter the Great. So the Russian was a very secluded country, and it started, really from the barbarians, this created this country,
Wow.
um, and if you look at the historic like pictures of Russian nobles, they all had big
Yeah,
beards,
yeah, yeah.
right? And when Peter the Great became the king, and he created this city, Peter's Great Petersburg or Saint
Yep.
Petersburg.
Saint Petersburg. Yep.
You probably hear about it. It's
Yes,
like one
sir.
of the greatest, most beautiful cities in the world.
Yes, sir.
He went to he was a builder king, and he was a student king. So he um, went to all different European countries, and he fall in love with France. And
Mm-hmm.
at the time that he was the king, Louis the XIV was the king in France. And Louis the XIV, created the Versailles, the most beautiful palaces the world ever known.
Yep.
And he took that culture and those builders back to Russia, and he made all his his royal servants, shave their beards, and he brought this Western culture, and
Wow.
hence the French culinary arts became a part of the Russian
Mm.
cooking. But because we had no food, that wasn't a part of it. So when the country fell apart and they start trading with the rest of the world, and the food came
Gotcha.
in, it became this infusion of
That's crazy.
French culinary arts with the Russian background came to know. So
So,
that's the food. I mean,
so the so it was a communist country, right?
it was communist. Yeah,
And so the top, which is the government, they had everything like you would want. But then
yeah,
the rest,
yeah,
everybody else had bread,
yeah,
milk, butter, water.
yeah. Yeah, if you're familiar with communists, it's everybody worked by their abilities and everybody get by their needs. And this is Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels' philosophy, And basically, what the interesting things that happens that everybody works by their abilities, and but everybody gets by their needs. So when you start working by your abilities,
Mm,
but you're not getting kind of compensated for your abilities,
mm-hmm.
you start
You start
working by your disabilities. In other words, you start working the least you can, right?
it's the truth.
And
It
wanted
is
to
the
get
truth.
the most you could,
Of
right?
course. You know, I
And it's almost like it reminds me of like employer mentality. It says like your boss wants to pay you as little as he possibly can, so you don't
that's true.
quit, and you try to work as little as you
Little as
possibly
possible
can
not to
not
get
to get
fired.
fired.
I had a philosophy. I started security when I was 18, right? And my philosophy was I will work my butt off for 2 weeks and I will learn
Mhm,
everything about that specific place that I need to know in
mhm,
order for me to work as little as possible and get paid
mhm.
as much as possible. You
Yeah.
know? and,
And did
and
that philosophy change once you became your own, your own boss?
100%.
Yeah,
There is no working as least as possible anymore. You don't do that.
yeah.
You just work. How much do you work? You don't stop. You
I
just keep
just,
going.
I mean, my life and my work is just kind of one big thing.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
the key is also to find balance. So I work very hard
Mhm.
on actually balanced life. That's
I,
part of my work as a health and life coach.
I watched one guy. He was saying that he puts his family into work. So
Mm,
now it's just a one thing. So you could just move. You just do whatever you
yeah.
got to do. But your family's there. Your friends are there. You just keep going. So you don't have to slow
Mm,
down. You don't have to do those stuff. So different philosophies, but And so
yeah.
let,
Yeah.
let, let's get into like a bit of your educational
Sure.
upbringing, man.
Oh yeah.
How was school in a communist country?
Well, I tell you, I don't know how schooling comes up. I tell you how school's to me. It's just my personality. Every time we
Sure.
go to school, and I say, you know, why God, or why am I punished to do that? Like why? Like what is what like like I remember going walking with my head down and just like with my shoulders dripped, and it just this burden, this overwhelming burden, just going to school,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
sitting in class, listening to things that it just I just hated it with every fiber of my body.
Yeah.
I hated it while I was in Russia, and then I hated it when I came here. I mean, I dropped out in the ninth grade.
Jeez.
I just stopped school in the ninth grade,
Wow.
and that's my conventional education. Uh, and well, that's my high school, right? I mean, this
Wow.
is
Wow. Wow.
that's pretty much
Was there
fourth grade to the ninth grade.
was there a difference between back home education and then the education that you got
Yeah.
here?
Well, I tell you this much. In back home education, there is no second chances. Like either you do what everybody else does. So, you got to finish school. And
Yeah.
after you finish school, you got to go to college. And after you go to college, you got to get a job. And if you miss any one of these steps, you became a reject of society, and you basically just complete garbage. There's no second chances in Russia. There's a good chance you're going to end up in a psychiatric asylum, or in jail, just because you missed a step.
Are you
Just
serious?
because you missed a step,
Wow.
100%. It's different now, but it was like that when I
Yeah.
was there. There is no second chances.
Wow. Wow. That's that's wild, man.
There was no second chance.
That's wild. So you're doing it. If not, you're done.
Yeah,
You're you're lucky.
you just gotta grind. I mean, it's that, or your parents could lose their jobs. I mean, your son is a reject. So you didn't educate him. You're a reject. Like it's just a crazy stuff. Everything could just trickle
Wow.
down. Yeah.
Wow. 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 So obviously it's slightly better here. You get options. You get
Yeah,
opportunities. You
just,
get
yeah,
to
yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, just a
jeez.
little bit better.
Yeah.
You can kind of drop out of high school, then get yourself a GED. I don't know if that's the same thing you guys have in Canada.
Roughly, yeah,
It's
same
equivalent
thing.
to diploma. You take a test, you can go to college, or you can start a business, and you can do
Yeah.
whatever it is you want with your
Whatever
life,
you
right? You
want.
can
You do
prosper in the
whatever you want.
free economy. Nobody's really telling you what to do. I mean, there's some rules
Of
of
course.
things that you can do, like uh, uh, financial, physically,
For
and like
sure.
abuse the world around you. But there's second chances.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Freedom is beautiful. But I'd love to hear about your conversations at home,
Yeah.
because I think those conversations at home, it builds how
Uh,
we interact with other people, right? So like, you hear about people that are in China or in was it in Korea and stuff, right?
hmm
That they like the walls have ears, that
mm,
you can't say
yeah, yeah, yeah.
anything too much. You gotta
Oh, yeah,
just stay focused. Like, hey, how's your day? Good. Okay, cool. Like that's it.
yeah,
Like, don't say anything about your boss. Don't say anything
yeah.
about your teachers. Don't say anything. So, what was that conversation like with you and your parents?
Well, the closest that I can say that people can relate to is like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? So what happens at home stays at home.
Wow.
Nothing gets out. Nothing gets out
Nothing.
because when we left USSR, we were an enemies of the state.
Jeez.
So just for the inkling of the idea that we want to live the country, before we actually did that, right? Would just create the complete chaos and everything. I would be abused as a child. My parents would be abused as, like whatever. They would lose their jobs. We wouldn't have food. It's just the craziest. So you gotta like, if you have an idea of just freedom, like it doesn't exist. You know, uh, God doesn't exist. You know,
So
the
say,
Communist
say that
Party
again. Say
is,
that again.
yeah.
God doesn't exist in the
the,
communist
co-
system.
the Communist Party is your God, is your creator, is your guru, and that's it. So you pray to the leader of the Communist Party. He's there on everybody's wall, on everybody's work desk. You know,
What? Like actually?
absolutely. Yeah, the churches are closed, synagogues closed, everything's closed. There's zero of any of that. Is anywhere in the country, no religious whatsoever.
It
You
doesn't
pray
matter what it
in your
is.
you pray in your own space without anybody knowing who you are and what you are, and um, and that's it. And but the interesting thing, that this is the interesting thing, like listen to this crazy thing. In your passport,
Yeah.
it actually tells you ethnicity as
Hmm.
your religion. So for instance, in my passport it says I'm Jewish.
Okay. Yeah.
In my friend's passport it says Christian Orthodox.
Yeah. Yeah.
And somebody else's with like from the eastern part of Russia, it says Buddhist,
Okay.
and you would get prosecuted for being non-Orthodox Christian. So nobody would, so
Wow.
nobody would practice their religion, but being of a different religion, of being a minority, would be prosecuted. So like I would be just spit in his face and say, freaking Jew, and my parents wouldn't get opportunities they would get, and if I would stay in that country, I wouldn't be able to get into colleges that unless uh, unless I would pay somebody off. My parents would pay.
Wow.
So yeah. So it was. It's the craziest thing ever. It is the craziest thing ever. So on the passport, it says, your ethnicity
Yeah. Yeah.
relate to your religion of your ancestors.
Wow.
So basically, your religion, you're religious by penetration, not by your actual beliefs.
Yeah. Wow. And like just because you are not this, spit in your face, don't get a
But
job, don't go to
yeah, but
college.
not like 90. You're not like 99% of the other people. You are you are
Yep.
you're like you're an outcast, and you try to keep it as secretive as possible,
That's
that you are like,
possible.
say that my grandparents were Jewish, and I had no idea what the Jewish is. I didn't even know, like my parents says, like, you are Jewish. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I never been in synagogue, I never been in church, I never been, well, I mean, until I came to this country, right?
Yeah.
And still, like, because of this upbringing, I never became a part of the organized Jewish religion. So I can say that I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious.
Mm, mm.
By the nature of my work and by the nature of my growth and nature of my personal evolution, I became a very spiritual person. But I still don't follow uh, Jewish religion, let's say,
Mm.
to 100%, of the traditions.
Yeah.
When I got married to a Russian Orthodox girl, and we had a priest and a rabbi, basically, put us together for the respect of our,
For
you know,
sure.
of our
Parents.
parents, right? Like,
But and to think that
so,
wouldn't even happen back home. That
oh no, that wouldn't
yeah.
even happen. You would be married by the state, and that's it.
That's wild. And you see like certain pushes in our culture here in the West that they want to get more that way, more, and it's kind of sad to hear even stories like this is like that's wild. Like you gotta wait in line for bread. Like through this whole COVID thing, I had to wait 2 weeks ago when I went to go get groceries in
Mm,
line because you couldn't have so many people in the store. And in my head, I literally went back and I thought like this is exactly what happened
hmm
back in the day through Hitler. This is what happened through the communist regime. This is what happened, and
yeah,
it's scary. In my opinion, it's scary.
yeah.
But when you came here, right? So you spoke Russian back home?
Yeah, so I didn't speak a word in English. It was the funniest thing because when I came here, I did not speak a word in English, but I was 13 years old, and it's really easy for until you're about 15 to pick up a new language.
Oh, okay.
And I had absolutely zero issues picking it up. My parents, they had difficulties with it. My
Hmm.
mother was a civil engineer. My father was a computer programmer. They both
Wow.
came here, and within a year my mother started working with a year in the engineering field. She was a civil engineer for city of New York for all her life. She just retired, and within a year, she learned English, she learned the skills, she passed all the necessary tests to become a licensed civil engineer, and she got a job
Amazing.
for the city of New York. And my father became a computer programmer, and here in the United States, he was actually one of the first computer programmers in Russia. You know, he was creating those computers uh,
Really?
that were a size of. I mean, you can't see the building anymore, but it's basically a condo. It's like a huge condo with over, I don't know, 500 apartments. It's probably like a half a city block. And the computers that he worked was the size of this building. The first
What?
computers that never
What?
existed. Well, that's a whole other story. So the
Oh
first
my.
computers, there's more power on my cell phone right
Yeah,
now than this
yeah. I was
computer.
gonna
Than the
say.
computer. So the first computers that ever existed, every bit was a light bulb, was a little tiny
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
incandescent light bulb. So you need 16 of those light bulbs to have one character, like letter A or it's a. We'll go into that some other time.
Yeah, most definitely. Oh my gosh.
So this
You
is
blowing
how
my
these
mind over here, brother.
computers were created. There's a lot
Yeah.
of stuff. So he was the first one, pretty much in this industry,
Yeah.
all his life in there, and then he came here and he reached the levels. You know, so he just retired too. He was the one of the senior people in Salmon Smith Barney's in that computer department. I mean, it's well over 500 people under his, supervision.
Wow.
And again, came here without a word of English. So, and the same thing with me. I came here without a word of English. I learned it really quick. My parents, uh, had a little bit more difficulties, and this is the interesting thing. When I came here, I remember my parents giving me 20 cents a day. There was a pizzeria, and the pizza back then used to cost 20 cents, right? So I would have a bottle of water, which I would like refuel at home, right? So I didn't have money to buy myself, those carbonated
Sure.
drinks or water like Coca-Cola, but I would always get myself a slice of pizza. And there'd be days when I would not get a slice of pizza. When I tell my parents I would get a slice of pizza, I would just save the money.
Save money.
And I took that money. I think I had like $10 or $12 to Barnes and Nobles.
Oh
That
wow.
store fascinated me. That store fascinated. It was like this huge store, right, with millions of books. And I remember so right now, I'm walking through these books, right,
Yeah,
through,
yeah.
and I'm looking at all these picture books, and I'm 13 years old, and there's these interesting books, and I go to this shelf, and I see this book. It says "Awakening the Giant," and I
Mm.
think it's like a really cool book about giants and some mystery stories, and I'm like,
Kinda.
right? But this has no pictures, but I don't know what it is. I just didn't mind that it didn't have those pictures.
Yeah.
And I take this book and I bring it home, and it's nothing else but Tony Robbins, one of the first books, Awaken the
Wow. That's
Giant. And
amazing.
I'm 13 years old. I've opened this book, and I start reading.
It is
And
about
the most
giants.
interesting, yeah, the giants that's within us, right?
Exactly,
The
exactly.
giant that's right here. Awaken your
Exactly.
own giant. And the most interesting thing is that I didn't even know how much English I had, or just the way Tony writes, is
It's
that I
easy to
read this book from cover to cover. It was about 4 o'clock when I brought this book home, and in the afternoon. And I remember reading through the night and the whole next day. It was like Friday and then a Saturday, and I finished it Sunday sometime later. And like literally, the only thing I did is I drank some water and like just went like I was just completely zombified by this idea.
yeah.
And I took two things out of that book. One is that I have immense power within me. And the second one, there's this concept of can I, constant and never ending achievement. So constantly grow, constantly move forward, constantly. And this is what started my journey on growth. So I dropped out of high school from purpose. I mean, perhaps maybe it is from this book itself because it just wasn't interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in so many different industries and so many different things that I did. So my first job was in restaurants. I started as a busboy when I was 16, when I was 15, and I moved all the way up to the head chef in an Italian restaurant when I was 21. Then I went to do computer programming because my father was a computer programmer, and I got licensed, certified, and I got a degree in computer programming, and I became a computer programmer on Wall Street for Prudential Securities, and I worked that job for 3 years. Then I went to nightclub promotions and marketing.
Hey now. That's
Yeah,
that,
and I did that for 3 years.
wow.
And then I went to accounting because I was making money, I was doing good, but for some reason I never had money. And I said, who knows how to make money, save money, right? I said,
Yeah.
accountants do. So listen to the craziness of my head, right? Instead of just hiring an accountant, I went to 4 years of
I gotta be a
schooling,
accountant.
right? And I became an accountant, and I opened up my accounting firm, very successful. Uh, and I sold that firm to a friend of mine who also I studied with actually in college, right? Um, and then from there, I opened up a medical firm with my friend who's a radiologist, and we hired over 500 doctors. This company still exists called USA Red, USARAD.com. It's a radiologist who read the scans remotely all over the world. And
Can I ask one question here?
yeah,
Nightclub, accounting, computer
yeah,
engineering, chef. I'm
yeah,
gonna open up a medical facility.
yeah, yeah,
How?
yeah.
Where in the mind does that like fit
Can
into
I?
this?
Can I? Constantly searching, trying to find myself. Constantly searching, just feeling not happy. It's like there's something else there. There's something else there. There's something else there.
Mm,
And the interesting thing, I got into a very big argument with his wife. With my partner's wife,
yeah.
and I just literally left like just literally left everything I built there. And I said to my son, I sat down, I said, I think I got really screwed.
Probably did.
and and I need a lawyer, And then I said to myself, it'd be really good to go to law school and become a lawyer. And I went to law school and I became a lawyer. I studied, I got I studied for the LSAT. I did real good on the LSAT. I went to law school. I did 3 years of law school and I became a lawyer and I got myself a law degree and I got a license here in the state of New Jersey. And I said to myself, and I went and I worked in a law firm for 4 days,
4 days.
and I quit. And I opened up a restaurant because it was my childhood dream.
What? Are you serious?
It was my childhood dream. And
What?
I burned through all the money and I lost that restaurant in a matter of 6 months.
Oh
I,
wow.
I, I lost everything and all broken down and all depressed. I have all this life. I mean, just simple freaking thing is running a restaurant. Like the simplest, like the stupidest, like at
How
that
old
point
were
of my
you at
life, it
that
was
point
just so
when you?
easy. Huh?
How old were you at that point when you opened the restaurant?
So that was 7 years ago. 7 or 8 years ago. So I'm 46 now. So I would
Wow.
say
So
I'm about
38.
38, yeah. And I said to myself, the stupidest thing. I mean, with all this knowledge, with all these tools, with all these, uh, like, how can I fuck up a tiny little restaurant? It was a little restaurant, it
Yeah.
was a health food restaurant. And I got really, depressed within
Heartbroken.
myself. And a friend of mine called and says, this doctor, he needs, he just needs like a personal assistant, but more like someone who, this really successful doctor just needs somebody with like your skills, your ability, like, not just like a personal assistant, but like someone who's like almost like like secretary of state, like the second person in command,
Yeah.
but not the business manager, like of his own personal affairs and his own personal growth. And I got this job, and we built 3 medical offices for this doctor. He went from a $500,000 doctor to $9 million doctor, $9 million a year of growth, pretty much of net income
Man.
over the 3 years that I was with him. And I asked him for a little bit more money. I was just an employee, and he denied me that money. That was the year that my daughter was born, and I needed money. He denied me, and the most interesting thing is that I quit and I started my own company of recruiting doctors. And this took off, and this took off, and this took off. And made some bad decisions about people that I'm hiring,
Mm.
really bad decisions. And I taught them all the tools and I gave them all the contacts. And one day I came to work and there was nobody there. And all the work and all the contacts, they just took it with them. And it was just kind of an interesting thing. And I got really depressed again. And you know
Yeah.
what I did? I went to sell cars. I called my friend, who I bought a brand new Cadillac Escalade. It was it was it was it was a brand new Cadillac Escalade. I don't remember what year it was. Just a brand new Cadillac, 6,000 miles. And I was about to go pick up the paperwork for this car. The car had like $1,600 of monthly payments, and I went to get a paperwork for this car. And it's a friend of mine who owned the dealership, and I said, "Shit, I don't know how am I gonna pay for this freaking car because I just lost my company. You know, I gotta know what the hell is going on." He says, "Why? Well, you see the desk over here. Why don't you just hang out here? Like you got a big mouth. You know, you know how to talk to people." And I got stuck there for 2 years. But what I realized is that I learned to sell. I thought I was a salesperson all my life. Until
Yeah.
you start selling
So
cars,
you start selling. Yeah,
you don't
absolutely.
understand what the selling is. And I work with the most fun group of people because, um, I mean, I love these guys, but they were all rejects and high school dropouts, just the way I was. But these guys were making $200,000 a year. They were like, you know, the 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who just basically just had a lot of fun and didn't know nothing about life. But one thing they knew is how to sell
How to
cars.
make money. Yep. There you go.
And the most interesting thing is that they were natural salespeople, and not one of them could teach me how to sell. So I went to books. Uh, the first
Uh,
course that I took is Robert Cialdini's The Art of Persuasion.
okay. Yep. Yep.
The second course I took is The Wolf of Wall Street. What the hell is his
George
name? Oh my
Belfort.
God. Huh?
Belfort. Belfort.
Yeah, Jordan Belfort, straight line sales, and there are multiple courses on communication and
Hey, I
persuasion,
was
things like
actually
that.
thinking about how is that course? Because I'm looking at another one, but how is that one? The straight line.
I think it's the best course you can ever get. I
Really?
think, yeah, and I have a lot of materials, you know, from this course that I can obviously, you know, forward to just for you
All
to
right.
glance on until you know, take that purchase
Yeah,
because
for sure.
offline I'll give you a lot of good stuff there.
Sounds good.
And I learned how to sell and start teaching other people, and literally became the number one salesperson there in the team. But during this, you know, hanging out with all those rejects, this is what started happening to me. I mean, they all smoke cigarettes. Some of them smoke, you know, pot. They all eat like shit, and it's good for the 18-year-old body, but it's not good for, like, you know, 40+ years old body, right? So I eat like I eat with them. I smoke cigarettes, you know, well, having fun, and I'm starting growing, right? So here I am, 2 years in this business, paralyzed on my left leg. Listen, paralyzed on my left leg, completely paralyzed on my. I have gout. It's a very special case of gout that normally gout flares up only on one part of your body. My gout was
Mhm.
flaring up on all different. It could flare up in the neck. It will flare up in the arm. And when the gout flares up, it is the most uncomfortable. So when gout flares up, it's like somebody stabbing you, right?
Jeez.
Like cutting your meat out.
Mm.
And you control gout 100% by diet, by the way, and
Oh,
nutrition. 100%. You don't need. I mean, you can
no
take pills
choice.
during the flare up, but it can
Yeah.
completely disappear and never appear. And my heart started like feeling really funny, like like this. So I went to a cardiologist and he diagnosed me with a leaky heart valve. My daughter's 2 years old. I can't even pick her up. I'm literally standing right here, when, you know, in my office now, and this beautiful park outside, and I see the parents, you know, just tossing in a little frisbee or just kicking a little ball with a 2 or 3 years old. It's like this building's full of kids, and I'm standing here, I'm crying, right? Because like I can't do anything. And this is why I found coaching. And with the small, tiny changes, I started creating big results for myself.
Mm. Mm.
And just 6 months ago, my cardiologist cleared me to run it to start training for a triathlon. So,
Hey,
um,
hey, thank God.
so
Yes.
that's why I'm so
Nice.
passionate. I never want to go back to where I was.
Yeah.
And you know something? This is what made me realize that all these life's lessons, all these life's challenges,
Yeah.
were the gifts to me to lean into, to
Mm.
bring me to the place where I'm now,
Nice.
to
Yes.
do the most meaningful work from the
Mm-hmm.
comfort of my spot. And like, this is a little office that I have. I call it the spot.
The spot.
From the
Yes.
comfort of my spot, to touch people all over the world. I have clients in Australia. I have clients in New Zealand. I have clients in England, and tons of clients in the United States. Actually, no clients in Canada. I'm surprised why, you know. But you know, for whatever reason, I mean, you know. Uh, but uh, but yeah, and it's just like serve people in a meaningful way. Uh,
That's amazing, man.
Something that I've never done before in my life. The
Mhm.
most interesting thing about this work is that just the other day I had an old acquaintance from the recruitment business offering me an 80,000 contract that I can fulfill within a month. And I said no, because I don't want to take, I don't
Time
make
off.
80,000 a month right now in doing this work.
Mm.
Not even nearly that. But I would do this work for free
Wow.
rather than taking an $80,000 contract there. I did a lot of thought. I kind of
I would.
took it in and I
I
said
would
to
do the
myself,
same.
never in my life would I deny this type of contract, except this time, because I don't want to take a minute out of whatever it is I'm doing right now. And this type of passion and this type of work, that's what, if people can find that,
Hmm.
if people can find that, I mean, this is how everything will change. Sometime when I was still studying on becoming a health and life coach, I became very active on the internet, on social media, and communicating with a lot of people. And I remember somebody asked me, if you would do one thing that would have tremendous impact on the world,
Mm.
positive impact, just only one thing, what would you do? And I kind of sat there and just answered this question, sink into my head, and I said, continue work on myself to become the best version of myself in
Mm.
every syllable of that word. Because if we can become the best version of
So
who
true.
we are, then we can give a greater of ourselves to everybody out there.
Facts.
Instead of working on changing others, all we have to do is working on
Changing
improving and
others.
changing ourselves.
So true.
And then we can become the greater product, the greater value that we can
Hmm.
just give out of that to the universe every single time. All the answer to this world's
Oh man.
challenges is people too lazy, too anxious criticizing others, too lazy to work on themselves.
You know why? Because I think working on yourself is scary for some people.
Mm.
You
It
know,
is.
because like
You got a good
I
point
can
there.
show you all your flaws. I can show you all your stuff.
Mm.
But then when I get to myself, I because you can do superficial with other people, right?
Yeah,
But when you're
yeah,
dealing with yourself, you can't do superficial because you know everything. You
yeah,
remember that time when, you remember when you looked at, you remember
yeah,
when you did this, and it's like
yeah.
you can't forget that. You know what I
I
mean?
love that you bring it up because it's so freaking true. It's so freaking true. You remember those things are in your memory, but now if you change the lens, the way you look at it, if
Hmm.
remember as I was a victim, to remember that I was a victor, even in those times when the things were difficult. And it's kind of goes along with what you're saying, you know,
Mm.
like with your company, you know, victims to victors.
Yes, sir.
It really is. Let me just give you an example, right? My gout, the
Mm.
most debilitating condition ever. This thing is like,
It's bad.
I could deal with a leaky heart valve because like I could just die and like not really feel it. But like I
True.
could deal with a paralyzed leg because I can just sit and be a freaking vegetable. But when somebody's stabbing you in the knife in the neck, and it's not really
Yeah.
stabbing, it's really what
It's just
happens is
pain.
this crystals. It's this crystals. This uric acids create a crystal that continue growing, and it's not like a mass. It's not like a cancerous mass, which is like it's not painful. It just
Yeah.
kills you slowly. The crystal is like a needle that keeps on growing and expanding and like and very fast, and so you get like this extreme pains, right? Yeah, I can see your
Yeah.
face, right?
I like that. I like that.
And you get it in your neck, and you get it in your elbow, and you just sitting there, and you want to just cut off your hand, right?
It's that
And, you,
bad. Damn.
and
Mm.
I'm hating it, and I'm hating it, right? And now I'm looking at it, and I say, thanks God that I have it.
Mm.
Thanks God that it saved my life, because without that, guess what? I would never turn into looking at myself and becoming a healthy. I would never turn into say these things is the mechanism inside my body that nobody else has. Well, I mean, except the people with the gout, right? Nobody else has. Who telling me every single time if I have a shot of vodka or if I have any canned food, the processed food with preservatives in it, it starts a little itching somewhere in my mouth immediately. like before I even finish that plate, like immediately, it my body is very sensitive to gout, so it's very sensitive to those negative foods.
Rough,
And I
yeah,
would
yeah.
hate it because if I would go out even with my parents or with this
Vodka.
rich Russian food or vodka, right? like I would love to drink vodka. I
Me
love to.
too.
I could drink like 2 bottles and still keep on going, but I have a shot now. But guess
Wow.
what happens the next day, right? Like the next day I would be like a freaking vegetable just recovering from the day before. So everything stopped. And now I can work on myself. So I'm so grateful for the gout. So
Mm,
instead of just pushing the gout away, I leaned into it and I welcomed it.
mm.
And everything about this gout changed. The gout hasn't flared up in the last 2 years because of the
Wow.
diet and the mindfulness. Or if I would eat actually something that would stimulate the gout,
You're gonna know.
I would feel it right away and I would
Wow.
stop. I'd stop. It allowed me to listen to my body.
Mm, mm.
And so is everything else in life. As we afraid of it,
Yeah.
instead of being afraid of it, we, the way we conquer our fears is not by pushing them away. The way we conquer our fears is by actually embracing them. It
Yeah.
goes. I never understood it before, but this example of the gout is really practical example of understanding it. The fundamental things go from the ancient times of
Mm,
love your enemy as they love you. If you love yourself, right? The gout is the enemy, but there's no.
mm,
By the way, there is no question that is an enemy. There's no question about it.
mm.
It's not a
Yeah.
friend. It's an enemy.
Facts. Yeah.
But I love the enemy because the enemy is teaching me. So
Mm,
this is another interesting thing that I want
mm.
to just along the same lines, right? So you know how we move away from the negatives and move towards the positives?
Mm-hmm.
Why do that? Let me explain. We need the negatives
100%.
and we need the positives.
Yes.
Go into molecular structure of things. Every molecule has atom, and every molecule and every atom has protons, the positive proton and negative proton. If there'll be no negative proton, the positive protons will not be able to be stable. We wouldn't exist without the negativity. What you call good and evil, the good couldn't exist without the evil. The evil is not evil. The evil is just a negative proton in your molecule that you
Mm,
can't exist on. So what you do is you take in the evil and you push it away, pushing away, pushing away. And what does it does do to the good? It creates this resistance and difficulty in hearts.
yeah.
Embrace the evil, embrace the good, and just live your life happy with a big smile on your face.
I completely agree. I do. We as people, we don't do that. Like because it's uncomfortable. And that first part of uncomfortability is not what we like. But if we realize, remember back, like we didn't start walking right away, right? We fell and we hurt ourselves and we bumped this and we bumped that, but we kept going. We kept going. You didn't
Yeah,
learn how to formulate sentences and write paragraphs. You had to learn a letter. You needed to learn
yeah,
a sound, and it wasn't right away. It was over and over and over and again. You failed, you failed, you failed. You essentially embraced in a sense because you didn't really know any better. But as we grow, we're like, "Ooh, that's hot. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. No, no,
mm,
no, no. I don't.
yeah,
No, no, no. Don't
yeah,
do it. Don't do it." And I think it's great. I was watching one guy. He was like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan till you get punched in the face, right? And then your thing just switches up. But what happens if you're just like, no, I don't want to do this? Just because you got hit in the face, because you tripped, because you stumbled, because you got fired, because you got a divorce, you just like, I'm gonna shut down? No, you can't
mm,
shut down. You gotta
yeah,
you gotta be like, all right, cool. So what happened now? This is what
yeah,
happened. Understand where you are, accept it, and then say, what did I learn from it? What can I learn from this
yeah,
situation? Be good, bad, ugly.
yeah,
Your gout, you felt the pain. You're just like, oh,
hmm,
I can't eat this. I went to when I was younger. I did sambo, right? And,
okay.
it's a Russian martial art.
I know
And
that.
my coach, he was very persistent with the Moskovsky, right?
Uh-huh.
He's like, you must have this, you must, right? So you throw it back, and you have a good time. But so I understand when you see when you say Russians can drink, it's not normal, y'all. It's not normal. Like this is just water. But the fact
Yeah,
that it was normal to you to drink like that, but your body's like, no, 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 no,
yeah,
no, don't do this.
yeah,
And you got to take that inner look to be like, I want to, but it's not benefiting me. It's
yeah,
not making me get better. You said
yeah,
you went to you know, from not learning knowing English at all to picking it up very quickly to reading not a small book at all to
yeah,
then going off and getting into these different industries, different facets of life. Every time you had to learn something. Every time there was something uncomfortable. Every single time. And if you would have stopped because it was
mm,
uncomfortable. If you would have, I don't really know how to speak the language. Let me just not really talk to people. The teacher's asking questions. I'm not going to put my hand up. When people want to go play, I'm not going to do it because I can't even speak the language. Then you wouldn't
mhm,
pick up the book and realize there's something inside of you. There's
mhm,
something that the creator put inside of you that was not meant to be contained in these four walls on this piece of paper that they're telling you to do at school.
mhm.
Something inside of me is bigger, better, and I need to do. And then that's what you did, right? You went out and you pushed forward. And
Yeah, yeah,
I think a lot of people need to hear this kind of message because we need to do things that are uncomfortable. I
yeah.
interviewed a couple weeks ago Navy SEAL JP Donnell.
Mhm.
Have you heard Jocko Willink? No, he's a Navy SEAL guy. Has a nice chip.
I think he's one that you did an interview with. I think I watched it.
No, that was JP. No, yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay.
And he said at the end, he said, combat complacency.
Hmm.
And it's like that type of thing. It's like, hey, you know what? You can't. If the thing like I want those chips. Oh, let's go with the boys. Let's smoke a little something. Let's have this food. Hey, hey, what is your goals? Where do you want to be? You were saying that always wanting to grow, always wanting to see what is possible, and
Yeah,
it's that mindset that we need to have. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And you said people don't have tools and skills,
Tools. Yes,
and
yes,
I know that you do life coaching. What would you
yes.
say one skill that you would like if I could say this one thing? I believe you mentioned it already, but what what would you say that one skill is to get these people on the right track that got a divorce? Somebody kicked in their
Mm.
door. They've been victimized. They got fired from a job. All this crazy stuff. What would you say to go and conquer their world, conquer life, become a victor? What would you say that one skill would be?
Xanax. No, I'm just kidding. So you know why I said that. I mean, no, you don't know it, but let me explain it. So
Right.
people call me living Xanax. So like I'm a biggest competitor to Pfizer. um, so not Xanax in a sense, but to come in a point. See, when certain events happen in our life that takes us completely off balance, the first thing is not to find a solution, because the
Mm,
solutions, and this is a little deep, but and people who might listen to it might not really understand what I'm saying, but it is absolute truth. When you come to the point of peace and quiet and calmness,
mm,
the answers are already in you.
mm,
The answers are already in you. So what's happening is, even without these significant events in our lives, like divorce or getting fired or um, failing in something, uh, even without it, we always, our society lives like we that's the way we live. We live one step in the future, we're chasing something, or we live one step in the past, so we're carrying some baggage,
yeah.
and we forget to slow down and really enjoy the present moment. So, for just the benefit of the audience and yourself, I want to do a really quick meditation to really show you what I mean by that. All right.
For sure.
So, we always experience life in the future, and we always experience life in the past. But the most meaningful things that we have in life is being grateful.
Mm.
for
Mm.
the things that we already have.
So
And
true.
many times I was grateful, before I got into this work and really understood what the gratitude is. I was grateful for my brand new Mercedes Benz. And I was grateful for my beautiful condo.
Yeah.
And I was grateful to be able to put my daughter in this private school that was so hard to get into. And I was just carrying this bag, God forbid, I won't be able to pay the bill. And God forbid, like my daughter's not keeping up with the other students, like the stress. I mean, the great, being great. You see what I'm saying? Like when I
100%.
when I
100%.
ask my first clients when we first meet, like, what are you grateful for? And they tell me all these big things and a big accomplishment and things like that, that they really like material like, things. I ask them to take a deep breath. That's what I'm going to ask you right now. And I ask you to close your eyes for a second. And I want you to feel the surface that supports you. I want you to feel the feet underneath the floor, the touching your floor. And I want you to realize that you experience the world with five senses: the sense of smell, the sense of sight,
Mm.
the sense of hearing, the sense of touch, and the sense of taste. And if you wouldn't have even one of those senses, the meaning and experiences of the world would be totally different and perhaps not as meaningful as they are to you the way you are now. How
Mm.
much money in the world would you sell the sense of taste and never be able to taste the flavors or the skin when you kiss the loved one?
Mm.
Or for how much money would you sell the sense of hearing if you never be able to hear the music or another person speak, or the wind or the ocean or the singing of the bird or the laughter of a child or a loved one? And every one of those senses are the greatest gift that's given to you.
So true.
And so seldomly we're never being grateful for it. So no matter what happens to your life, it is the moment in time that we can settle in and be grateful for those senses, but not in the future or in the past, but at the present moment. So let's go through this exercise together. As you're sitting here right now in the present moment, take a sniff of air in you and be grateful for ability to have the sense of smell. And what do you smell right now
Yeah.
as you're sitting here with me?
Mm.
And how grateful for you to be able to have that scent. No matter what scent it is, just to be able to do it. And now activate your sense of hearing and hear for everything that surrounds you. Perhaps it is just the quietude, or it's the sound of my voice, or a little shrieking somewhere in the background, or perhaps if you're somewhere by the window, you can hear the wind outside, or the air conditioner just turning on, or maybe a little gentle music, or someone in the background, or somebody's steps, and how grateful for you are in this present moment to be able to hear. And now activate the sense of taste. Just lick your lips. Maybe you have a little bit of saliva in your mouth that you can swallow. And perhaps you don't have any food or anything, but how grateful you are to have the sense of taste, to be able to taste anything that you want, even tasting of the air, the crispness or the moisture. And it's we feeling all those senses, the sense of smell, the sense of hearing, the sense of taste, with your eyes still closed. See the area that's surrounding you. See the room that you're in. See the face of someone that you love in the present moment. See your own face in the mirror when you wake up and you look at yourself as you're brushing your teeth. See your own eyes, the reflection of you in the mirror, and the love that you can give to someone that you see in this present moment right now. And as you experience those senses of sight, the smell, the hearing, the taste, take your fingers and just rub them against each other. Be able to feel, run these fingers on your face, and how great it is to be able to feel. Imagine the life without feeling of a touch, feeling of a touch of your own skin, of the skin of the loved one. Be able to touch the flower or the butterfly or the grass or the water, and how grateful you are to have that sense of touch. All these greatness is given to you by the ultimate intelligence, but the gifts that you were given, that you can enjoy every single moment. And from this place, you find peace, you find quietude, you find the centeredness. And now take a deep breath, feel the surface that supports you, feel the floor underneath you, and open your eyes and follow the day in the present moment, because this moment will never be repeated again. Yet the moment before that already passed. The moment in front of you haven't happened. There's no reason to worry about what is about to happen. It haven't happened yet.
Truth.
But the
Truth.
present moment is something you can enjoy right now. And coming from this place of peace, the place of gratitude, you realize that everything in life can fall in place because you have everything that you need.
So true. I completely agree with that. Like as a Christian, we know all this stuff that the answers are within us. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
for us, it's through God and His Spirit. But it's it's not something that it's so out there, right? Like when you just sit down and shut up
Shut up.
realistically and just like, hey, listen, my bills are due, my kids are screaming, my husband is doing this, my boss is talking. Stop, just stop for a minute, and then do that and do that little meditation and realize,
And come
hey, you
back
know
to
what?
your boss and come back to your kids and come back to, and all of a
Exactly.
sudden you bring the better you into
A
that
hundred
environment.
percent,
And
a
all of a
hundred
sudden
percent.
you're not screaming and they stop screaming. Now there's a lot of techniques and there's a lot of things. There's so much knowledge that is in coaching. And the best thing about coaching is this. When you go to a therapist, when you go to a psychiatrist, when you go to a psychologist, they look what is wrong with you. The coach is looking what is right in you. The health and life coach is the same thing like someone who likes to become a champion swimmer would come to a coach and say,
Yeah,
give me new skills, abilities, and knowledge to become a better swimmer. Give me the techniques.
facts.
You still have to walk the path.
Oh,
You still have to train, but
that's
the
true.
coach gives you the right tools. And this is what I do.
Amazing,
So
man.
I'm super excited to be here with you today. And I got to tell you this much. I don't know if you'll be able to do this, but for every one of your clients, for all of your audience, I want to end it with a bang. I want to give some
Amen.
like tremendous value. So
Amen.
for anybody who listens to this, I'm going to give $250 discount for any one of my breakthrough sessions. And basically, you get a free breakthrough session with me, and it's a $250 gift. All you have to do is use uh, is use one second. Let me just create this gift code right now, so we'll be on the same page. All right. I'll put V2V.
Beautiful.
V2V. All you have to, victims to victors. All you have to do V2V 250 as you're registering. And if you would be able to actually have a QR code or the link to
Yep.
register, because I know that you having a session with me coming up tomorrow. I
Yes,
think
sir.
it's
Yes,
tomorrow,
sir.
so I'm super excited. So I'm giving any one of your audience, anybody who's listened to this,
Beautiful.
the same gift from me to you. Um, and
That'd be great. That'd be great, man.
experience that. And what happens in these breakthrough sessions is that we look at your whole life in all the areas of your life, and there's a tool called wheel of life. We go through this really quick access, and we identify 12 different areas of your life, and we find the area that needs most nourishment right now. And right in the session, I create a significant breakthrough in that area of life and get you unstuck and move forward. And
Wow,
this is my
wow.
gift to you and to
And this is
anybody
all in
who
one
you.
session, then, huh?
This is all in one session. It's all about
Imagine what it would
tools.
be for like just continuous with the sessions. Gee golly, gee golly, that's one session.
We
Woo.
are unstoppable. We have all the gifts. As again, we have giants within ourselves. We have seeds of greatness.
So true,
Uh,
so true, so true. That that's amazing, brother, man. Thank you so much for that. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
everybody that's gonna watch is probably gonna take advantage of that because, like you said, I'm taking advantage of it,
Yeah,
and because hey, in everybody's life, we can always have new tricks, new tools, new tactics, new things to do to see it from a different lens, to see it from a different place, and say, this is gonna help me out. You know what
yeah.
I mean? So hey, thank you for offering that, man. Thank you so much. And
Th-
just
Thank you for having me.
one thing
Yeah,
is if you could state your name and say, I am a victor.
I'm a victor. I'm Russ, and I am a victor.
Yes, sir, man. Thank you so much for this time,
Thank
brother.
you.
Thank you
Thank you for having me here.
for
God
sure,
bless
man.
you, and God bless your dreams.
Thank you. Have yourself a wonderful day.
All right, you be well now.